So you have this outsider coming in and essentially telling the entire business class, the party is over, you have to formalize.
That takes some serious nerve. It's basically saying, we are going to force you to be a modern state whether you like it or not.
And that leads us right into the friction, because that kind of top-down reform requires trust. It requires the average shopkeeper to believe that if they pay their 18%, the state will actually do something useful with it.
And that brings us to his psychological diagnosis.
It does, because he didn't think that trust existed. Not at all.
This is where the economist hat comes off and the psychologist hat goes on. Vaknin looked at the resistance to these reforms, and he didn't just see greed or laziness, he saw something much deeper. He called it institutional fragility.
And he used this really fascinating term, collective narcissism.
Okay, can we unpack that?
Yeah.
Because usually when we talk about narcissism, we're talking about an individual, the guy at the office who thinks he's a genius and needs constant praise. How can a whole country be narcissistic?
Well, it's a controversial theory, but here is how he framed it. Vaknin argued that small nations, especially ones that feel victimized by history, which describes a lot of the Balkans, develop a defense mechanism.
Okay.
They retreat into a fantasy of grandeur or moral superiority or some great historical significance.
So it's a coping mechanism.
Yeah.
Like, we might be poor right now and our economy is a mess, but we are the true heirs of Alexander the Great, so we are actually better than you.
Exactly. It's a way to soothe the collective ego when reality is harsh. But Vaknin argued this leads to a complete disconnect from reality. If you're living in a fantasy of historical greatness, you don't focus on the boring hard work of fixing the sewer system or paying your VAT.
And he really didn't pull his punches describing this. I flagged a quote here that felt, well, brutal. He remarked that Macedonians lack the cultural and emotional skills to manage democracy.
It sounds incredibly patronizing.
It sounds like he's calling the entire population children.
It does, and he was criticized for it, rightly so in many circles. But if we try to just analyze the argument he was making, the Steelman version of it, he wasn't talking about intelligence.
Okay.
He wasn't saying people weren't smart enough. He was talking about habits.
Habits.
Yes. Democracy is a habit. It requires compromise. It requires long-term planning. It requires trusting an institution more than you trust your cousin or your neighbor.
Right.
Vaknin's point was that after centuries of Ottoman rule, then decades of communism, those muscles had just never been exercised. The skill of being a citizen in a democracy hadn't been learned yet.
So he's saying you can write the best laws in the world, you can design the perfect VAT system on paper, but if the software running in people's heads is don't trust the system, trust your tribe, then the laws just won't work.
Precisely. He viewed the state not just as a legal entity, but as a psychological construct. If the people don't believe in the state's legitimacy deep down, the state is just a shell.